So good evening, Marc Lowe. I'm in the midst of some heavy grading, but I'm also, in order to keep sanity and maintain balance, and because papers are still coming in at this very minute, I'm doing music-related things. I don't have the energy to record new material or the sort of time to concentrate, but I ended up doing something. I've been going back and forwards and backwards a lot these past few years, and that's manifested in re-recording old material in new versions, acoustic songs and things. And this time I went way back, if you've looked at my recent post, to the very first LP I recorded using Logic. Before that I was in GarageBand, just learning the very basics, fundamentals of mixing and mastering. And also this was the first album I used a USB Korg USB keyboard. I only play guitar in Phantom, the opening sort of track after the introduction of the 2017 version of the album, the first version. Then there's a 2018 version where I did sort of new arrangements or mixes of things after I had sort of learned more in Logic. And I want to talk about sort of track by track. I want to give some information about the tracks and about the album as a whole. It's a kind of concept album about the Angel of Death, and actually the original version was entitled Red Signals. It had a different cover, but later that same year, 2017, I started recording and created sort of Red Signals album. And the cover that actually showed me I was shirtless, topless, and my girlfriend at the time took the photo for me. It's just I'm against a white wall like this in my apartment, and I have pants on, but my shirt was off, and I was holding my head in my hands with my hair kind of coming down. And then later that year I rearranged some things and made some changes. Phantom came on to the album. It wasn't on the first version. And I did another cover, which was just the shot of my face, and I effectorized it with these kind of circles. I had an application I was using at the time. So I had that photo in my hard drive along with the files, and so I sort of re-edited it with new text and made the 2017 right, from German, the original version. And then the 2018 version, actually, I reconstructed from, I had done actually several versions that were similar, but I had two different covers for it, and one was the photo you see that, again, I re-edited it and put the text on 2018. That photo was actually taken in late 2017. That was the new edition or something. I was constantly sort of trying to better it, and so those versions were, like I say, rearranged or remixed or remastered too. Like the sound, I think, is a bit more dynamic, and the arrangement's a bit more complex in the 2018 version. But I actually think that the original 2017 version has some charm to it or something. And also it includes 1, 2, 3, You're Dead, which is not on the 2018 version, and Phantom, which is not on the 2018 version. The 2018 version, on the other hand, has a different version of Red Signals, two different versions, but 2018 version 1 is kind of the version I had composed using guitar with arpeggios. Later I did a version similar to that with Joe on bass, and then I further arranged it. Last year I did a new arrangement with the guitar arpeggios and new backing tracks and stuff. And so, but that's, the difference between the two. And also Night Shadows, actually, which is in place of 1, 2, 3 on the 2018 version. Night Shadows, actually, there were two versions of that too. I realized afterwards. I didn't go back and search. There was a slightly longer version, which has this kind of horrifying scream at the end. And maybe it's better that I didn't put that version on, but maybe it was closer to the 1, 2, 3 atmosphere. This is a kind of just fades into, an ambient sort of tale that trails off. Let me talk again about track by track and the concept behind this, because I talk in the notes on the YouTube page. If you have time to read them about this, but I thought I would kind of talk in a bit more detail about the tracks in this short talk. So let's look at this. I'm going to take my sunglasses off, and actually maybe I should put my regular glasses on, but of course I can't find them, so forget it. I'll just deal with squinting. We have the intro, The Angel Death, and it starts with "You cannot resist her." And I think I'll put these back on. There are my glasses. You cannot resist her, because the angel of death is personified as, metaphorically, as a woman who is going to suck one's soul, succubus, that you cannot resist her. And she comes back on transparent dress. I'll talk about that in a moment. So it's a kind of just dark intro. I wanted it to be kind of like a soundtrack to a film or something. And then Phantom kicks in. Phantom was a track that originally I composed a cappella, and I was in the band, my band was Chattering Men. Clay Babb was the guitarist, and he arranged it in a hard rock version. The band played hard rock. There's a story behind this. When we did it acoustic, that was a very strange night. We had an acoustic version because we did acoustic shows as well, and it didn't quite work for the audience, and people walked out, and I'll never forget, the guitarist got angry at me. But anyway, Phantom here, this was the version that I had originally tried to do my own arrangement. So it's got drums, pounding drums, and bass. The bass is synth bass. I used the keyboard for that. Again, this is the first album I used keyboard. It's really the only song I play guitar on the entire album. Red Signal's 1 on the 2018 version. There's a bit of guitar, particularly toward the end. But apart from that, there's no guitar on the album. So Phantom is this kind of, pounding heavy song. And the lyrics are like what they were in Chattering Men. I did a version of this last year for my 022623 album, which I did a lot of songs from 2016, 2017, before, I guess Phantom was before, 2014 or 15. I had composed it a cappella, and we did in the band. That version has different lyrics. It's very different. This version's, the difference of the lyrics is there's a bit of you were my muse and guide, and I was searching for you kind of thing, and that kind of fits with the theme of this album, right? The woman, that there's something going on romantic here, or perhaps it's just a metaphor and it's not really romantic. It's a kind of dark romantic, let's say. Okay, so the Phantom from last year, the acoustic version that I recorded, is quite different and doesn't have that part of the lyrics. The next track that comes in is called A Liar. So the 2017 version. All the versions on here of these songs tend to be more sort of stripped down than the versions on the 2018 version. So the original version of A Liar, the drums are kind of electronic, and they're Logic beats. You can kind of get similar beats in GarageBand. I had been playing with those beats when I did my original demos for like Black Nail, for example. The first version of Black Nail in GarageBand, I didn't have a keyboard and I wasn't using the guitar, so I just programmed the drums with the Logic drums. GarageBand actually drums at that time. And the bass line was made from that same Midi, automatic sort of preset Midi, and I made it into a bass line and sang over the top of it. That became Black Nail, which in 2017, after I got my keyboard, I re-recorded with piano and bass line and all that stuff. So here, it's this kind of thing, right? And that's A Liar. And the song A Liar kind of, for me, relates to The Dials in the Bathroom, lyrically in some ways. I kind of consider those two songs a pair, but The Dial is in the Bathroom became a song that I ended up afterwards sort of rearranging, performing live. Many times A Liar kind of fell by the wayside, but I like this song. It's short and kind of quasi-industrial or something, and I'm going to re-record that this year. I'm going to talk about this. I may re-record a number of these pieces, and I'm considering doing some kind of 2024 version of this concept, but it'll be quite different. I mean, it's not going to be like just redoing the songs in the same way. It'll be something quite different. if I decide to kind of go in that direction. The Doll's in the Bathroom, which is playing in the background now, this is the very first version I ever recorded, and this is where the song comes from. It was part of the concept of Angel of Death, or originally Red Satan's album. And it's, of course, about this man who is obsessed with death, and he thinks that people are after him. And the dial is in the bathroom, the gun's in the chest. Time for you to rest. That's the chorus. And it has this kind of synthesizer, right? Parts, which later became piano parts. Originally it was synth. And for many years when I played it live, I did with synth, but then I started doing piano sound. The version in 2018 starts with piano, actually. It has more piano sound and less of the synth bass. This is followed by Transparent Dress. I actually realized, I think the versions in 2017, 2018, when I played them back, maybe the mastering's slightly different. None of these, I didn't play with any of these in Logic. I don't have the original Logic files for most of these anymore. These are just the original versions. I just re-edited them together. So I really didn't play with the mixes this year, I mean. But Transparent Dress, basically the same, I think, or similar, these two versions, but I took this track and used it again the following year in 2018. The end of 2018, the summer of 2018, when I recorded my album Detective Dark River Chronicles. And that was a story, that was really a concept album with a cast of characters, if you will. The main character was the detective character, the protagonist, if you will. It was kind of based on David Bowie's Outside kind of non-linear detective idea, though I wasn't playing various roles. I was just doing the voice of the detective. The other roles were played by people in the community of Kiyokawa, where I lived. I changed it to Kurokawa, Dark River. But anyway, Transparent Dress, this version does not have any spoken word. The detective version, I used spoken word from my then girlfriend, who played a character role in the drama of Detective, and that's a very different story. And Transparent Dress, she was a human, right, a woman who seduces the detective, and he gets caught and drugged by her, actually. She invites him into her home, but she drugs him, and then he passes out, and these guys come and steal his belongings, and then the story continues from there. They disappear, and he wakes up and has to get away. Here, Transparent Dress is the angel of death. It's the seductress, the succubus, if you will, the metaphorical death, angel of death. And so the meaning here kind of is different. It changes, right? The idea behind this and the version in the detective album. So that's Transparent Dress, but very essential to this. You cannot resist her. That phrase comes back a lot throughout the album. Nothing. A Void Into Which You Fell was the subtitle originally for that. Was the next track. And again, these two very different arrangements, 2017 and 2018. 2018 is thicker. It's more complex in a way, but this has its own kind of charm to it. And it's in parts it's different. The voices and the echoing voices and effectors here I find very interesting. I've never sort of done them this way again, you know. Actually, this whole 2017 version, what I like about it, listening to it now, I mean, is that I did weird things with effectors and mixing that I never done again. I think it's because it's kind of pure and innocent, and I was experimenting and doing things that, oh, that's kind of cool, I'll leave it that way, and then I never sort of did again. I remembered I was using some of the electric guitar effectors on my voice at the time and things, and I don't use them anymore because they're not really made for that. You can do it. There are other ways to kind of do it that I do now if I'm using certain effects, and I can kind of control them more. I'm not using presets these days. I mean, I tend to do sound shaping a lot more now and in all various ways. But it's interesting to hear because, like, they have some interesting sounds and effects that are different from things that I've used since. And the way that I also was doing a lot of harmonization with myself, you know, like I occasionally do that now, but I was doing it more and using different effects and the voice on the left and the right and so on. And so it's interesting. So that's, anyway, Nothing. Very dark song, very dark lyrics. They Told You, it's the they, and it's I don't even remember the lyrics now. They said you were nothing. They said you were no good. They said you'd be forgotten. They said you never should. It's all these kind of negatives, and it's a very dark, sort of nihilistic piece. Actually, listening to it now, it's quite dark and negative lyrics. But anyway, it's an intense piece that goes with the theme. Only When I Tried to Find You is the longest piece on here. It's over 10 minutes, and at the time it was fairly, significant, like long piece for me. I had done some longer pieces up until this point, but and these days, of course, I have pieces that go for 30 minutes, even an hour. Last year, 2 years ago in 2022, I did a piece called 100 Seconds that was an hour long. But 10 minutes. This original version on the 2017 album is the drums are kind of just like, I think I layered 2 sets of Logic drums that kind of have some counterpoint feeling things, but they're kind of simple. There's not a lot going on. There's this creaking sound that moves and sort of pans left and right, and the vocals were completely improvised. I remember singing it very late at night in my apartment, quietly singing into my mic. Only When I Tried to Find You, the lyrics just came out like this. It's kind of telling this story, right? Of the man searching for this woman who was lost, maybe dead, never comes back to him, and he kind of falls apart. And again, it kind of fits with the theme of Transparent Dress and the whole thing. And even Phantom in this part, which is not repeated in the 2018 version. Waiting is another negative piece about waiting and waiting for nothing, almost waiting for nothing. I did a song called Waiting, called Room in 2020, which was actually after I broke up from the woman who was my girlfriend at this time. This is 4 years later. Yeah, 4 years later. Actually 3 years later. And at that time I was living in a separate place, and it was Corona, and I was singing about waiting for nothing. It's interesting, waiting and nothing and waiting for nothing. And also the last track on here is about the light coming in. So it ends with lightness. The 2020 Untitled album, which is also very dark during COVID after a breakup, ends with There Is a Light. So there's some weird parallels between these very dark albums that I did, separated by 3 years, because the original album was recorded in 2017 and that Untitled was 2020 in the spring. So waiting again for nothing, but here it's you're just wasting your time and waiting, and you wait for things, but they never seem to come. Time moves so slow. It's this kind of biding one's time and waiting for things and just feeling drained and miserable. It's a very dark album. Red Signals, the first version of Red Signals, the first version I ever composed, recorded, arranged, and it was actually arranged on a piano, on a keyboard, not with a guitar. And so this version has drums in it and synth bass line, which was also created actually with the Logic drum, and then became this kind of weird bass line that actually I really like, and it works, and I wouldn't change a thing about this particular version. 1, 2, 3 is a really weird, very, very slowed down, stretched out. I think it was actually the tempo and the date I recorded when I looked in Logic. I still had this file actually saved on a USB drive, and I checked it the other day. It was January 23rd, 1, 2, 3, and I remember that's where the title came from. January 23rd, 1, 2, 3, and I'm saying in Japanese, in Hakata dialect from Fukuoka, you're dead. Kimi, which is you, Kimi ga shindoru, instead of shindeiru. Shindoru, it's a kind of Hakata dialect. And then the outro, Come Into the Light, which I had totally forgotten about this until I revisited this the other day and heard it again. It's like this kind of ambient thing that it's almost new age at the end. It sounds like your person is like ascending into the light, or it's like on Red Signals is, do you see the end of the tunnel? So it's like the tunnel is dark and the light at the end is light, right? So when you die it's dark, but then it's light at the end. And here is Come Into the Light, you've died, right? Kimi ga shindoru, 1, 2, 3, and Red Signals ends with Wake Up, You're Dead. And this begins with You Could Not Resist Her. So you got caught into the trap, you've died, and there was darkness, but now all is quiet, all is calm. Come into the light, everything's going to be okay. The angels are there in a sense. It's angel of death, but again, it's the contrast between the darkness, death, and the angels of light. So it's really my theme. I tell people all the time in music, it's yin to yo, it's yin and yang, light and dark. Those themes I think are very, very strongly represented here in so many ways. And actually, maybe I didn't even realize it at the time. Fireflies descend, also that line coming from red signals, you know, fireflies descend. Fireflies are light, but you can see the light because the contrast of the dark. They come out in the darkness of night and they glow. So, and they're descending, which is, you know, you think of fireflies sort of flying up in the air, not descending. So coming down to earth or falling, or maybe they're falling, their wings are falling off, maybe they're becoming, you know, the females are the fireflies and the males. No, the males are the fireflies. Females are the glowworm without the wings. So, you know, male and female, yin and yang, light and dark, idan pingala, yin and yang. Let me just say a few words about the 2018 version, and then I want to keep this short. The talk, it's already over 20 minutes, but try to keep it relatively short. So 2018 version, basically, apart from the fact that it's more polished, I think the mastering, it's a bit more dynamic sounding, the bass is a bit richer and so on. There might be bits that sound a little bit, you know, not perfect mix. Like I say, I don't have the original Logic files. I didn't go back and totally remaster. I didn't touch the mixes. I do think overall it sounds more dynamic to my ears, but and more complex, the drums and things. Red Signals 1 I mentioned, right? This was the version I had originally composed on guitar with arpeggios. This version uses a kind of approximation of that guitar sound. I don't play much guitar except at the end, the chorus, Red Signals, Blue Skulls, where I'm kind of singing in a very high voice. And I'm playing, actually I think I recorded it on an acoustic, but then I electrified it with Logic, so it sounds like electric power chords at the end. The other tracks are, again, just different arrangements, so I won't talk about each of them. You know, A Liar, that was in the bathroom. I'll say a few words because the arrangement is completely different. Starts with piano instead of synth, and it's just a totally different arrangement with other samples in it, kind of strings being like violin strings or being plucked or something, coming from the loop library, which I started using in Logic late 2017 when I started this Dark Shroud solo. That was part of the thing. I started doing industrial style versions of songs, and I did this version of Dials in the Bathroom, ended up on the 2018 version. Last year I went back to this version, slightly different arrangement, and I had the Logic file for this. I have it, and so I went back in and put a new vocal on, added synth bass to it, similar to the original version, or the versions I did with Joe in 2019, I guess, 2018, 2019. And then that's my other camera just died. I was filming it from 2 angles, and this, the battery doesn't last very long. So anyway, yeah, so I added new vocals, I added noise to the end and other things. So that this version of the Dial, I kind of recently revisited and rearranged as well. Transparent Dress, almost the same, nothing, like I said, different arrangement. The middle section's different, the vocal effector's different. Only when I tried to find you quite different, the kind of double drum counterpoint thing is gone, and there's just a very steady, slow beat, and there's also shakers in the middle section. There's African chanting, which comes from the loop library that I put in there. The vocals have different effectors on them, and it's a bit more complex, and it sounds a bit more like ethnic or something. It's like just the effectors, the shakers, and the voices and stuff. Yeah, Waiting is a bit more complex, the drums again, and I added some sounds. And Red Signals 2 is really literally just a remix of the version of Red Signals that you find on the first part, the original version. It's a bit more complex. There's other drums and other electronic sounds in it, but the vocals are the same recording, so it's really a remix. Night Shadows is here. I mentioned it, right? So this was the second version of Night Shadows. Was originally recorded for this Dark Shroud solo. I'm not sure how it got here, but I needed a replacement, I guess, for 1, 2, 3. I didn't re-record that. I didn't rearrange that. And I had this version of Night Shadows. It was part of the 2018 version. I could have found the other version. I could have changed it, but I left it in as is. And the actual Come Into the Light is almost exactly the same, but the mix is slightly different. I can hear it. It's a little bit more dynamic or something, and the effectors on the voice and some of the parts are slightly changed. there's a bit more echo or something. Again, I didn't go back and remix or remaster any of these. These are as they were. I just simply, I changed the ordering a bit of the songs, although I kept them basically the same for 2017-18 here. And other than that, I just bricolage them a little bit so they fade one into the next to give it a little more soundtrack feel. But otherwise, I didn't touch the mixes. They're exactly as they were in the original versions. I just made sure that levels were more or less consistent for each album. So that's what I want to say about this. The only other thing I will add is, and I think I mentioned it already, is that I'm considering doing a version for 2024. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. It could be a completely different thing. Maybe parts of it will be similar. I really want to focus on like the tracks like A Liar or Waiting or Nothing or Night Shadows maybe, I don't know. Doing Only When I Tried to Find You, which is playing now. I'd like to kind of do something, you know, like a rearranged or based on or something. The lyrics may change. The arrangement will probably be totally different. I might do, who knows, maybe for reg signals or dial songs I've done before, maybe I'll do totally different acoustic versions, piano versions, ambient versions. Who knows what I'll do with these. It'll be something totally different. I'm not going to just re-record like in similar versions. Maybe I will. I don't know. I really don't know. But probably it'll be different. It'll definitely be different in some way. So that's my talk about this album. I put it up tonight. I have to go back to grading this week. I'm just grading all week long and taking breaks doing stuff like this. And once I finish my grades, I'd like to get in there and start recording stuff based on these tracks, the concept, and so on. I'm also considering, I just restrung got my Telecaster, new strings put on after actually years. I played it the other night, right? Live performance. And so I might do, if I do Phantom, I might do Phantom again. I might do a new version of Phantom and make it electric. I might play drums in the studio and record them. I've never actually done that and have just my live drums on them. Why not? I should do that instead of, you know, and maybe mixed with some electronic drums or something. So that's the next project for me. And actually, here's the last thing I'll say. Ironically, it's weird how Angels keeps coming back, because this is the Angel of Death. And I had last year recorded a new material and put it together, and I kept changing things and tried to decide what to call it. There was an album I had composed called Tipping Point. I think before that it was something else. And then it became Angels Are Watching, because I recorded an ambient track that I had called Angels Are Watching, because my clock read 1111, 1111. I took a photo of it. That was going to be the cover. And then I made a track that day that was ambient, and I called it 1111. And then I looked it up. The number is about this is like an angel number. So I said, okay, Angels Are Watching. So then I ended up doing This Dark Shroud, Angels Are Watching. And then I decided not to release it as This Dark Shroud. So I compiled it with other new material. I've got a double album and a different cover, and it became Angels of Chaos. Originally I was going to use Chaos somehow. I ended up not using the song or the recording. Actually, I had a live recording I was going to use. I decided not to, but the title became Angels of Chaos. So I had Angels Are Watching, Angels of Chaos. I even had Angels Are Listening at one point, and then I just rediscovered this, and it was called Angel of Death, and now I'm considering this as a second version. So this is the year of angels for me, for better or worse. I don't know what it means. Maybe I'm about to ascend, or maybe the angels are watching and things are going to shift somehow, hopefully for a better direction and rather than a worse one. But things are certainly shifting in the world. I've been talking a lot on this channel about that. I don't want to be negative. I want to be positive. Let's hope they shift in a better direction for us. They need to shift either way, right? So thank you very much, Marc Lowe, and enjoy, if you have time, to listen to these two versions of the album, and stay tuned for more. I've got lots more. Angels of Chaos, I may actually just be putting that up as audio as well, my latest work. Very, very, very different from this. It's mostly instrumental material, actually, some ambient material, actually a lot of beats, but it's mostly instrumental and electronic, some noise, some ambient few vocal things here and there, spoken word, and some political stuff, and it's a mixture of things. Thanks very much. Signing off, Marc Lowe. Get back to grades and other things in my life, and music, always music. Thanks very much.